Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Small Business Social Show and Podcast. My name is Jill, and I'm your host. And today we're going to be meeting Elizabeth Marks from Smart Copy Clicks. Elizabeth is someone that has an incredible background in copywriting, and she is just going to teach you all kinds of stuff about how to communicate best with your customers and your clients. And she has some really great tricks and tips, and I can't wait to share them all with you. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm the owner of Fox Social Media, and my company's been helping businesses, practices, and brands to both market and grow online for the past 10 years now. And I'm so excited to have both my podcast and my YouTube show so that I can help all of you as well. So let's get started. Hi, Elizabeth. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Small Business Social podcast and show. I'm so happy to have you here. And could you please tell the audience a little bit about your background, your education, and what you're doing right now?
Sure. Hey, first, I just want to say thank you for inviting me to be on this show. Happy to be here. I love who you serve as far as your audience goes, and I think that dovetails pretty nicely with who I serve as well. So, as far as me, I have a corporate background. I've worked in corporate for 30 plus years in the computer industry. I did everything from project management to Six Sigma. I'm a master black belt, y'all.
Oh, cool.
I've done some product marketing there as well. However, what I really truly like doing is marketing. And so I've kind of been studying marketing for decades as a hobby. So when corporate decided to lay me off, I'm like, okay, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to open my own business. It's going to be a marketing business catering to women who left corporate to start their own business. And that's what I'm doing now.
And I love that because it goes so hand in hand with what I do. And Elizabeth has an incredible talent with words. And, through Fox Social Media, if I'm working with a client and posting something and trying to write a caption and getting stuck, I always think of you. Like, what would Elizabeth say?
Yeah. You know the 4 U's technique, don't you? Have I shared that with you yet?
Go ahead and share that real quick.
So it's a real simple technique in order for you to make your headlines very effective. So whatever you're writing, if you got a headline, an email subject line, a blog post title, think about these 4 U's. The first U is urgent. Is there anything that's in that headline that brings about a sense of urgency? The second U is it useful? Like, can you tell by the title that if I read more, I'm going to get something really useful out of it? The third thing is it unique? So this is kind of where you get that curiosity factor in. Is it not just the same old headlines, but is there something in there that's just totally different and it makes you want to click? And then lastly, is it ultra specific? So when you read the headline, do you know, does the audience know that headline is specific to them? Is it talking about a very specific, ultra specific thing? And so therefore your ideal audience knows it's for them and they click on it and read.
That's so smart. And no, I have not heard that. And I'm going to steal that now because that's so useful.
Yes, it is.
When it comes to, with the videos, you've also got to tap into the traffic, the search traffic, because YouTube's a search engine. So it's a little bit different on there. But when I'm writing posts and captions for posts, I feel like I'm a little on the boring side. Can I do it? Yes, it's a little boring. I'd love to have more of your talent. So, which leads us right into, can you please tell us about Smart Copy Clicks?
Sure. So Smart Copy Clicks is my business. It's a marketing consulting company, and I strive to help business owners write words that sell more stuff. That's the bottom line, right? So I help people with strategy, figuring out their marketing strategy, whether it's an email strategy, a content strategy, or a social media strategy. But I also do copy coaching. So if you are writing your own copy and you just want to make sure that it gets amped up a little bit, hey, let's do some copy coaching. I can critique it and help you get it to the next level so it's really converting well. And then I also help businesses with done-for-you writing projects. So if they're setting up a sales funnel or they're doing a product launch, I can help them with all the copy that goes into a product launch or creating that email campaign.
That's such a necessary skill, with story being so important to the sales
Mm-hmm.
process now. What you do is really, really important. And I think
Absolutely.
more and more businesses are starting to realize that now as well.
Right. Yeah.
And
And, the power of video is so great because of the reach that it has. It's just physically impossible for you to be in all places meeting with everyone one to one. So the next best thing, obviously, is video because you still kind of get a sense for someone. You can look them in the eyes in a video and you can get to know them. So,
it's true. I feel like I'm looking at you, even though it's just technically an image of you, but on
right.
this split screen here, I still feel like I'm looking at you.
Right.
So a good you had a good career in corporate. So
Mhm.
what made you decide to want to go this route after you were laid off? Why didn't you just say, I was going to get another job?
Uh, well, because I was kind of doing something, although I was good at what I was doing, which was program management. I was a senior level project manager rolling out, multi-million dollar systems, doing corporate training, executive coaching. I was good at all of that stuff, but it wasn't really like where my heart lied. So when I took some time off and tried to look back at everything that I've done and try to see, okay, well, what was I doing when I felt the most alive? And in most cases, it was like helping other women. I'm like, oh, maybe that's some area that I could focus on. And then I just tied that to what my other love, which was everything marketing online. I just love utilizing technology to get the word out there. I love helping businesses craft their messages so it's a simple, easy to understand message and not complex. And I really love helping businesses get out of the me marketing mindset and shift that focus so they can um, really connect with their ideal audience in an authentic way, and build those relationships.
I so relate to you. A lot of what you and I do is similar, although you have kind of a different twist than I do. So, but we serve a similar market. So
Mhm.
I completely understand all of that.
Yeah, yeah.
And who's your ideal client? Like what type of businesses do you work with and
Mm.
what size?
That's really a good question. Right now, it's a little bit all over the board, really. I have worked with health advocates. I've worked with lawyers. I've worked with financial planners, leadership companies. For some reason, right now, I have like 2 or 3 different leadership companies I'm working with. I'm like, what they must like my message because they keep coming.
Yeah, well, that's
So
pretty cool to know. And they've got to be trained in how to get that written word out for them to be
exactly.
successful doing what they do. So that makes
Right.
total sense.
Yeah. And maybe something to do with my background being in corporate, that seems like a good fit as well, right? So I know how their audience thinks because I used to be their audience. So
And
that
that makes
might,
total sense.
yeah.
So, what's the most common challenge that your clients have,
Mm,
and how do you help them with it?
I see a couple different challenges. So one is around websites, right? So you start a business and you're like, well, I've got to get this website out there so that people can find me. And they put together a website, either they do it themselves or they hire a family member to do it for themselves or whatever. And then they're disappointed when nothing happens with the website, like it doesn't generate any revenue for them. So, one way that I help is I do an audit of your existing website and I compare it against best practices. And I have a 35-point checklist that I go through to see if you're doing all the right things on your website. And of course, I'm looking at the words you're using, the story you're telling, and how you're trying to navigate people through your site. And a lot of times I can see a lot of issues with the website, that me marketing I talked about, where it's all about me and here's what I do and here's all my products, and it's like nobody cares.
Yeah.
I hate to be harsh, but really nobody cares because they don't know you yet. So you have to flip the script and speak to your audience where they are, what conversation's going on in their head, and you got to start there and lead them on a journey that helps them solve their problem. So websites is definitely one area. Another challenge people have is their social media. And you know better than I do in this because that's exactly what you do. But everyone finds it so challenging to do a social media, any kind of marketing on social media, or even maybe I'll set that one aside because that's your area. We'll talk about
go for it. It's fine.
email marketing or any of the areas, really, any kind of marketing they struggle with because they know their business, but they don't know how to market, right? So I like to get with people, talk about what they're, who they serve, what problems they solve, help them identify types of offers that they can make to their audience to try and, attract them and craft those offers speaking to those audience. So, and whether it's done through social media or email or on your website, doesn't really matter. So
that's a good point. And I know one of the things that people say to be successful is that you've got to love what you do and you've got to stick with your areas of expertise. If you're super ultra shy and so uncomfortable in video, don't do it.
Right.
Stick with email marketing or something that's your comfort zone.
This is true. However, I'm in a mastermind group and they have been challenging me to do things that I am uncomfortable with. And I got to tell you, I'm having a blast. So video is something that I was never comfortable with ever, ever, ever. It's like, I'm a writer. I'm introverted. I like to sit, process, write, edit. It's got to be perfect before it gets out. And they're challenging me to do these, live videos. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. So I'm starting this month. I have started doing these live videos where I'm just doing a tip of the day. It's not a very long video, but I'm sharing just a single tip about something related to marketing and copywriting, of course, just to be helpful. There's no call to actions in it. I'm not selling anything. I'm just trying to be helpful. And
now, are you putting that up on Instagram stories as well? Are you doing YouTube, Facebook?
So far, I'm doing, I have a Facebook business page. So it's Smart Copy Clicks is my business page. So I'll do lives there. I'm doing lives in LinkedIn. I have a pretty big following in LinkedIn. So I'm starting to do lives in there, which I find hilarious. Yeah. And I'm getting all this engagement. I'm like, oh, this is good. And then what was the other thing? And TikTok. Have you done anything on the TikTok platform?
Not. My clients tend to be in the regulated industries like medicine and law.
And they wouldn't be there. That's fine.
It's not really their thing. I do have a gym. They do most of their own posting, but my others are very, commercial real estate, managed accounting.
And those are all very difficult to embrace the video, right? Because it's very highly regulated. You got to have it fully scripted and all of this takes all the fun out of it.
Yeah. Well, there's certain things like I'm working with one, I have a new client now. And although it's kind of a dry area, when you go into their office, they have a nice setup. They have their own bird. There's a little bird in there who talks and does all this stuff. And they do a lot of great things with their team. So there's so much to show behind the scenes to get to know them that video works for them. And we just started an Instagram for them for that same reason. And they're constantly hiring. So in addition to attracting their clients, they've got to attract really top-notch talent. And that's another way that we're starting to go about that for them. So
yeah, that's awesome. I read a post that you did recently about social media content and, do you need some ideas? And it's like you rattled off like 35 different types of content they could be creating for their social media. And, I'm well aware of all the different types, but even reading your post, I'm like, oh, That's a good idea. Some really good ideas in there.
Well,
So,
thank you. And I know
yeah,
we all, work together and this, I guess it's more kind of gone from competition to collaboration. And
absolutely.
you don't really, I think if you do a good job, you yourself, you're reliable and ethical, you don't really have to worry about that. You're going to
Right.
attract the people that are most comfortable working with you. And you're going to
Exactly.
like, I'm going to learn a bunch from this interview from you. And other people that I have on as well, and that's only going to help me be better. And if I have a client who really needs that copywriting, that's not me. I don't have that skill, but I know where to send them. So I can
Yeah,
help them better by knowing you and knowing that you're talented.
sure. Yeah,
So it's all, if you look at the world that way, it's so much less stressful and so much easier and
absolutely.
nicer to be in. So yeah,
Yeah,
definitely
because you
agree.
just look for ways to be helpful, and you yourself don't have to be the one that's giving the value. You could be the connector, like you said. It's like
Right.
I've developed quite a extensive network. I have experts in almost every field, so I can
That's
do that and be
smart.
that for my clients. So
So smart.
absolutely. So I love having you on my team.
Yeah. Hey, me too. That's awesome. Yeah. And just for those of you watching, Elizabeth and I actually met through the Irvine Chamber of Commerce. We are
Right.
in what's called a leads group, where it's
Hmm.
a bunch of different business owners, or they might be the salesperson on their team in a large company. And we all get together and learn about each other and what we do and what our strengths are and how we can help each other. And that's
Yes.
what we do. Then once we make those connections, we have very good people to refer clients to for things that we don't do, and vice
Hmm.
versa. So it's a win-win for everyone. And
Absolutely.
yeah, it's been a lot of fun. So I would love to hear some of your success stories from your
Hmm.
clients. Tell us about some of those, your favorites.
Okay. Well, one gal is a health advocate, and I met her through a networking group, Christian Business Partners, I think. And she has all these amazing stories about health benefits and just small tweaks in your lifestyle to improve your health, and small tweaks to you get more the vitamins and nutrients that you need in your diet. And she has all these great ways to do this, but she didn't know how to get that message out. I mean, she was networking her fanny off, going everywhere, but it's you can only go so far when that's your only mode of getting your message out. And so I started working with her to set up a MailChimp account. I set up some email templates for her, and we created a landing page for as an opt-in for her newsletter. So I showed her how she could communicate her message through email, in newsletter format, and she's been growing her list ever since. So
That's so awesome. Doesn't it feel so good when you can help somebody that has a good business and can help
right,
others? Then you can help
absolutely,
them to grow. It's the coolest
right,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
I have another client that she is a consignment store owner. So she has this luxury consignment store, a physical brick and mortar store, and she sells name brand clothing, accessory, bags, shoes, all the stuff, right? And her clients who come into the store love shopping there because she is like this personal fashion concierge where you walk in and she takes them by hand and asks them what they're looking for, what are they trying to achieve, and she pulls all these things together and shows them how they can dress their body, teaches them how to dress for their body type, their colors, how to accessorize, all this personal stylist stuff, and they get it for free just by walking into the store. And so I was having a conversation with her about it's difficult running a brick and mortar store. There's lots of overhead, and the margins are pretty low, and there's inventory turns and all this stuff that you have to deal with. Well, we got to talking, and when I found out about her being a personal stylist for like Nordstrom in her past, I'm like, why are you not doing that now? Because that's another way your audience can interact with you on a deeper level. And so we are working on a launch of her group coaching around the personal stylist service so she can serve her clients on a deeper level.
I love that. That is
So,
so exciting. And is she
yeah,
here in Orange County?
she is. Her store is in San Clemente.
San Clemente, okay. Because it's
Yeah.
so expensive to operate a brick and mortar store in Orange County, California. You've got to be amazing. And especially when it's a secondhand. We had one in the town I live in as well, where everything in there was in great condition, and it was they were all brand names, but they found it hard to stay in business, even though what
Hmm.
they had was beautiful and they had
Right.
clientele. It's just the overhead is
Well, and this really goes back to something Jay Abraham teaches. When you are in business, you need to have a solid foundation for your business. You need to build what he calls the Parthenon for your business. And what that means is every source of income and revenue you have, you need to build multiple of those, because if your business is based on one thing, something could happen and that one thing could go away. And now you're scrambling trying to figure out how to keep your business afloat. You know, if you relied completely on, I don't know, paid traffic or SEO or videos or something, right? And then there's some algorithm change and it just takes out your whole strategy. What are you going to do? So be smart and build multiple ways of building income in your business, and then you'll be safe no matter what happens.
Oh, and I totally agree with you. And one of the other things I find is that I have a podcast and the YouTube channel, and although the content is the same, the audience is totally different. And interestingly enough, a video on a topic, my top video is not my top podcast.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost it's
Yeah.
on video it's the how to, and here's the steps
Right.
and walk through this, but the podcast is more the strategy or the
Mm-hmm.
stories or how this person was successful or the steps you need to take. So
Right.
it's a
Yeah.
really interesting that you reach different people on different
You
channels.
too.
And
And
fortunately I have that right brain where I kind of I tend to want to go everywhere. I have to rein myself in a little bit, because there's a strategy to it, and you want to pick the channels that are best for you. But yeah,
sure.
that's so
Well,
true.
and if you're going to be on multiple channels, as is recommended, then you
Mhm.
need to know how to produce content for that channel. So you don't want to just create one piece of content and then just blast it across all the different channels, because it doesn't work the same.
Right.
It could be a different audience, like you said, and you need to fine tune it for that platform.
Yeah, and it's tough to do that when you're doing a lot of yeah, and well, nowadays too, so few people see your organic content that when you do share the same thing, it's not going to be an overlap in the same person, unless it's your mom or your husband or somebody that looks at everything you do. They're not
Right.
going to see uh,
Yeah.
it on every platform. But
Yeah.
um,
Definitely.
the other thing I want to ask you, are there a few pieces of advice you can give to people that are trying to write their content, trying to be authentic, get their message across properly without being salesy?
Yeah.
What do you recommend?
Oh, that's you almost said the name of a topic I just gave at ParaHub. We did a
Oh,
business boosters thing last week, and I was teaching on or sharing on how to sell without being salesy. um, Really, the bottom line is it starts with knowing who your audience is. And you have to disconnect from you and what you're trying to communicate to what do they need to hear. So you need to walk in their shoes. The better you can put yourself in their shoes and think like them, what questions do they have? What things are they struggling with? What things are frustrating them right now in their business? And when you start from that aspect, then you can back into, well, how does my product or service help solve those things? And you can lead them there. But you have to start with their pain and their problems first, because that's how you're going to connect with them. And only after you've connected with them will they be willing to hear that you have any kind of solution at all, right?
that's true.
So, I mean, that's my biggest tip. It's probably the hardest thing for people to grasp, because you sit down to write and you're like, okay, what do I need to share today? And you just start spilling
Mhm.
out everything. And it's like it's a push to them.
Right.
But that's not what you want. What you want is you want to engage and bring them closer to you. So you do that by getting inside their head and speaking their language.
That's
So,
such a great tip. You
yeah.
shared so much great information today, and I am excited to learn about the 4 U's because I did not know that,
Yeah,
and I'm going to use that. But
that's a great one. I encourage everyone to use it. So,
it
um,
really is. And can you tell everyone where to find you?
well, I'm not everywhere, but I am on Facebook, as I mentioned before. So I have a business page that's called Smart Copy Clicks.
And I'll
Um,
put links in the
in the
description
show
too.
notes,
Yeah, in the
okay.
show notes too. Yeah.
I'll send those to you. I'm also on LinkedIn as Elizabeth A. Marks, Marks. I'll give you a link to that. Um, I was starting to tell you that I'm on TikTok now because my mastermind suggested it. I find it hilarious because my 15-year-old is telling me, "No, Mom, don't post there. They're
Oh
going to make
yeah.
fun of you."
What he doesn't is it a boy?
Yes.
Girl, boy. Okay.
Yeah.
What he doesn't realize is that when you cross over and you pass 50, we
Yeah.
don't care.
Yeah. I'm laughing at it.
There.
He's like, "No, Mom, they're going to take your video and they're going to jack it up and make fun of you and it's going to go viral." And I'm laughing. That
We
would be
don't care.
great.
Yeah.
So anyway, I am on TikTok as Elizabeth A. Marks as well. And I'm on Twitter. And unfortunately, my handle's different there. It's EAM Copywriting because that's
Okay.
the real name of my business. But and then, of course, I have a website, smartcopyclicks.com.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so
Oh,
much. You really delivered a ton of great stuff
yeah, well,
today.
thank
Way
you.
more than I expected when I invited Elizabeth on this show. She
Sure,
just
sure.
had tips in so many different areas and they're all really good. So thank you
Oh, and
so
Jill,
much.
I'm sorry, one more thing before we wrap up. I do have a freebie for your audience if they're interested. So
Awesome.
we'll make sure the link gets in whatever the show notes or description is.
Okay.
But I did a webinar teaching on, how to launch your business now that talks about the 5 things that hold us back from moving forward in our business. So if you get a chance to listen to that replay, it might be helpful as well.
Definitely. I would definitely like to include that. And thank you for offering that as well, because I think that's helpful. If you don't get past that first step, then you can't
Mm-hmm.
get on to any of the other steps. So you
Yeah,
really have to, like you said, build that foundation first, even though you're excited to just,
right,
fly out of the gates everywhere. You really have to
right.
take those steps and build everything from scratch. So
Yeah. And these 5 things are things that I learned in my experience, things like I knew what I wanted to do,
mhm,
but these 5 things like totally took me by surprise.
yeah.
So I'm sure I'm not the only one that ran into that.
Yeah, well, it's funny, and I always tell people that in this field of online marketing, I have to wake up in the morning and figure out what changed when I was sleeping,
Yes.
overnight. So
Right.
it's forever changing. So we're always learning, and we have to keep learning
Yes.
and experimenting and trying different things to see what is going to work with a different audience. But
Absolutely. That's
well,
right.
well, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it. And I will get all of those links in the show notes in the description so that you can all reach Elizabeth. And thanks again.
Hey, thank you, Jill. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for joining me today. And I hope that you enjoyed this talk with Elizabeth as much as I did. She's really bright and fun and easy to work with. And she's just a wealth of information. So this was a great episode. I know for me, and I hope for you as well. So thank you so much for joining us today. And if you haven't already done so, please remember to subscribe because every week I'll be bringing you information that's going to help you to both market and grow your small business, your practice, or your personal brand. Thanks again. See you next week.